Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to this new study circle class in English. As you would recall if you had attended my earlier class, that we have done up till verse 39 of Surah Al Baqarah, the second chapter, by far the longest chapter of the Quran. We studied in the verses that we have done as yet a prelude, a preparatory message that was meant to pave the way for the two more significant themes of this surah to be presented as a consequence of the tamheed, the way that was paved by the first 39 verses. What we found right at the beginning of the surah was a description of a number of different categories of people, religious people who were found on the landscape of the Arabian Peninsula, who were the immediate addressees of the Prophet, may Allah's mercy be on him, and who responded to the last message of God in different ways. There were true believers, there were hypocrites, there were people who were confused, unclear, therefore dangling. There were polytheists, and obviously within each category, there were people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. And within these categories, there were, again, many subcategories. After having described briefly who these people were, and after having mentioned a few important things for all the groups of the Arabian Peninsula to think, reflect, and ponder about. Now, from verse 40 begins the first of the two significant themes of Surah Al Baqarah. Surah Al Baqarah, in its first half, addresses the children of Israel, the Jews, to look at the message of the God, of the Almighty, with an open mind, and to take it seriously, and therefore to believe in it. This passage that we will study shortly was immediately preceded by, as you would kindly recall, the story of Adam and Iblis, the Satan. And the moral of the story was that Adam was picked by the Almighty, and he asked angels as well as the jinns to prostrate before Adam and thus demonstrate to the Almighty their willingness, unconditional willingness to surrender before the Almighty's instructions. All angels and most of the jinns, they obliged. Iblis did not. Why? Because he was arrogant, and he, because of his arrogance, did not bother to look at the fact, the reality, that it was the Almighty who was asking him to prostrate before Adam. And, he felt that he was superior. That's exactly what he said. And this false sense of superiority caused Iblis to not accept the Almighty's will. Now we start a new passage wherein the Almighty is inviting the children of Israel to believe in God's message. The message that has come through to them through a new messenger whose arrival was prophesied, mentioned in the earlier books. But this messenger, even though he was from the progeny of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was not from amongst the children of Israel. There were clear hints in the prophecies of the earlier books, that that's what is going to be the case. But obviously those hints, more particularly when they are, even though clear, they have the potential of being interpreted differently. People don't interpret text honestly, properly, and clearly. They interpret texts so as to suit their interests, their hopes, and their desires. So many of the children of Israel thought that the new messenger, who is most certainly going to come, will also be from amongst the children of Israel, as indeed was the case with a large number of prophets who had come in that family, in that nation, that tribe. During this while, in the 2,000 years of the dominance of children of Israel in the religious domain, by being, as the Quran would clarify, the chosen people of the Almighty, this dominance caused them to become arrogant. And out of arrogance, they used to think about the children of Ismail as ignorance, as lesser people, and they would call them ummi, the unlettered, the uneducated. To their surprise, unpleasant surprise, the selection of the last messenger of the Almighty came in favor of a man from children of Ismail. The family, the nation that they used to ridicule and think as if they were inferiors, and call them by all sorts of insulting expressions. So this invitation to the children of Israel turned out to be for them a trial similar to the trial that the Almighty put the angels and the jinns into. And most of the angels, well, all angels and most of the jinns, they succeeded, but not Iblis. So after having mentioned this story, the Almighty is now inviting the children of Israel to have faith in the Quran and Prophet Muhammad, Allah's mercy be on him, and not be arrogant and become like Iblis. So that's the link between what's mentioned before, this invitation that has been extended to the children of Israel, and what we are going to study now. So the 40th verse says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge in Allah from the evil whispers of Satan, the rejected one. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And I begin in the name of Allah, whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. Ya Bani Israel, O children of Israel. Israel was the other name of Prophet Jacob, Yaqub alayhi salam, who was a son of Ishaq, Isaac, who in turn was the son of Abraham alayhi salam. So the children of Israel were the children of Isaac and the children of Abraham. As I mentioned, they were the ones who were picked by the Almighty for them to be able to receive His message through His prophets and to become God's representatives in this world. So instead of sending His message to the rest of the mankind through individual prophets, the Almighty chose a family, and that was the family of Abraham. So the Almighty is now inviting the children of Israel, who had experienced a long duration of dominance over the rest of the mankind. In that they were picked as the people who would be selected to deliver the Almighty's message to the rest of the mankind. So the Almighty says, Ya Bani Israel, O children of Israel, Uzkuru ni'mati. Recall my blessings. Remember my blessings. Allati an'amtu alaykum. The ones that I conferred upon you. Wa'ufu bi'ahdi. And abide by my covenant. Follow the expectations of my agreement with you, my covenant. Ufi bi'ahdikum. I shall do my part of the promise. That is, recall the times when I had made you to agree to a certain promise, covenant, which required you to believe in the Prophet to come, and to not only believe in him, but to support him, support his cause, and let the rest of the mankind know through you that he indeed is God's messenger. If you will do it, the covenant said, Ufi bi'ahdikum, I shall fulfill my part of the bargain, of the promise, which is, I will make sure that your period of glory would continue, and that, more importantly, you will succeed in the next life. وَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ, and you fear me alone. That is, follow what I am expecting you to do on the basis of what I had promised you earlier, and you readily accepted and obliged by saying you will do this, you will do what you have been required, asked to do. So that's what you must do, and be sure that I am firm on my promise. I'll not let you down. But if you want to follow what I have asked you to do, don't fear others. Don't be apprehensive of the consequences. Just fear me, and you will overcome all other fears. If you fear others more than you fear me, obviously you will not be able to follow what I am asking you to do, and you will be doomed. But if you will fear me, then you will have no reasons to feel scared, uncomfortable, and you'll not see problems that you will not be able to overcome. That's what the deal is. Fearing God is actually fearing the consequences of disobeying him. And obviously one of the consequences, the most important consequence of disobeying the Almighty is that you lose his confidence, his pleasure. The fact that he's pleased with you is not what you feel now, you feel comfortable with anymore, because it's not there. He doesn't accept you as his people if you are going to be ignoring him, his message, and would be disobedient. Now, what exactly is the Almighty demanding from them? The next verse, verse 41 says, وَآمِنُوا, and believe. بِمَا أَنزَلْتُ, believe in what I have revealed. مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا مَعَكُمْ, which is confirming what you already have with you. That is, you have with you books, and within those books, Tawrat, Psalms, Zabur, Injil, Gospels, there are prophecies, there are promises of a new prophet to come. This invitation that we are extending to you is an invitation for you to believe in what was already promised to you to come. That is, a messenger with a book. And he is indeed the one who is promised. So, for you, it's a very simple matter. There should be no confusions whatsoever. You were waiting for somebody to come, And here he is. So don't have any reservations, doubts, and any reasons to stay away from accepting him and acknowledging him. وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَوَّلَ كَافِرٍ بِهِ. And do not become the very first people to reject him knowingly. A kafir is a person who rejects the truth that has come from God and rejects it knowingly. In actual fact, the word rejection implies that a person has understood what has been provided to him. He has fully and properly been convinced that what is being presented to him is right, is correct, and yet goes on to reject it. So the verse says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَوَّلَ كَافِرٍ بِهِ. Don't become the very first of those people who would reject it knowingly. The Jews were likely to become the very first kafirs, quite apart from other reasons, because of the fact that they knew that a new prophet would come. It's true that there were many people of Mecca who did not accept the Prophet, may Allah's mercy be on him, to begin with, when this message was delivered to them. But you don't become a kafir simply because you have not accepted a message, so long as you are still open. You have the chance of accepting the truth if it's presented over and over again to you, and you gradually become more inclined to accept. So there were very strong rejectors of truth in Mecca, but for them the Almighty had provided them with opportunities, so that if there are any misunderstandings, if there are any emotions which are based on their attachment to their traditions, well, they should gradually overcome them. But in the case of the children of Israel, at least their scholars, who are the immediate addressees in these particular verses, they knew that this message is from God. And for them to reject this message actually made them instant kafirs, instant rejectors of truth, knowing rejectors of truth. وَلَا تَشْتَرُوا بِآيَاتِي ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. And see, don't bargain our verses for very petty value, for very petty price. That is, if you are going to reject our message because you would feel that if you accept this message as God's message, you would accept somebody from children of Ismail as your prophet, and you would accept him as your superior, and this is going to cause you to be lowered in status, and the kind of religious monopoly that you were enjoying for a very long time is going to disappear. This is a very small, petty matter consideration. Are you going to reject our prophet simply because of that? If that's the case, then you are making a very poor bargain. I mean, you are rejecting our verses for the sake of a price which is very small and ordinary. I mean, any price that an individual is prepared to accept and ignore and do away with God's message is a small price. So that's what the Almighty is saying. وَلَا تَشْتَرُوا بِآيَاتِي ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. And do not bargain our verses, our message, for an ordinary price. وَإِيَّايَ فَاتَّقُونَ. And fear me alone. Be conscious of my presence and fear me alone. That is, don't fear others. Don't fear the consequences of what's going to happen if you accept our message. You fear me, and all other fears are going to disappear. وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ. Now this is verse 42 of Surah Al Baqarah. وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ, and do not mix truth with untruth. وَتَكْتُمُ الْحَقِّ, and thus you hide, conceal truth. وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, knowingly. You know that what you're doing is wrong. You know that you're concealing and hiding truth. This obviously is now a more direct condemnation, criticism of what the children of Israel were doing. And some of the Jews, they would present truth, but they would also present untruth. And they would mix things up, which makes matters pretty confusing for the ordinary man. You know, if there is somebody who is undisputed, undeniable evil, then it's easy for people to decide that this man is wrong, he's evil. But it becomes more difficult and complex when you have somebody who is telling certain things, talking about certain things which are brilliant, which are very impressive. But side by side is also coming up with things which are ridiculous, unacceptable. So the Almighty is telling them, the scholars of the Jews, وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ, don't mix truth with untruth. وَتَكْتُمُ الْحَقَّ, and don't hide the truth. وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, and you know it. Don't do it knowingly. So this is what the Quran has mentioned over and over again, that there were people from within the children of Israel, and there is every possibility that there still are, who knew what the truth was, that this message of God is from God, and that the messenger is God's messenger, and the fact that the Almighty had promised that a new messenger would come, and He also had given signs which, if they are fulfilled, satisfied, then every person who receives those signs and is made aware of them must oblige by accepting the truth from God. But these people were hiding that truth, and the fact that they were hiding it is something that you can see even now today in the Bible that is available to us. There are quite a few things that you notice even in the present day Bible, which causes you to feel that this book has been, at least in some passages, altered, tampered with knowingly, deliberately. I'll just give you one example. There is a mention right at the beginning of the Bible, the Old Testament, the book of Genesis, that the Almighty required Ibrahim alayhi salam, to sacrifice his son. Now, you know, if the son who was to be sacrificed was Ishmael, and the Jews acknowledge it, that would really mean that they're acknowledging the fact that Ishmael was, he was a blue-eyed boy. I mean, he was the favorite of Abraham, and he was chosen by the Almighty to go through such an important sacrifice or event, which would herald the beginning of a new era. So they didn't want it to be Ismail. So they didn't want to accept the truth. So what they did was, that it's mentioned even today in Bible, that God is addressing Abraham and saying, "Oh Abraham, go and sacrifice your son, only son, Isaac. Go and sacrifice Isaac, your only son." Now, this, even if we go by this description of Bible, has to be wrong, because Bible itself testifies the fact that the first son who was born to Abraham was Ismail. How could it be that there could be a statement made by the Almighty to Ibrahim that you sacrifice your only son, and that only son would be Ishaq, Isaac? So there has to be something wrong. So I just gave you one example. The Almighty is actually referring to such deliberate acts of alterations and changes that the children of Israel attempted and did to confuse people and not let them know about the truth. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. And you establish prayer, and you pay zakat, and you bow down along with those who are bowing down. The Almighty is telling these Jews, the children of Israel, people of the children of Israel, that you know what? Your problem is that you are not willing to submit to the Almighty's will. There are worldly problems, obstacles that are stopping you from accepting the truth. This is because you lack humility, because you're arrogant, because you're not God conscious. If you start saying your prayers regularly, and if you start spending money in the way of God, this exceedingly strong love of this life has actually blurred your vision of the truth. This love is going to not completely disappear. What would come within acceptable limits of decency, of acceptable limits. So, say your prayers regularly and give zakat, spend in the way of God, and you would start realizing that the truth that is being presented to you is important to be accepted and acknowledged, and is important to be spread across. So, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. And start bowing down in your prayers along with others. So when you will start saying your prayers together, you will have within you a sense of getting inclined towards the truth, and a sense which would make you feel committed to the truth. But if you're not going to do it, then you'll remain arrogant and you will not have the inclination to acknowledge the truth. Warka'u ma'ar-raki'in is also a subtle invitation to the Jews, the good Jews. Look here, our Prophet, the last Prophet, may Allah's mercy be on him, he has introduced the same prayer that your ancestors used to pray. And look at the way they are bowing in ruku and going in prostration, sujood. Just join them. I mean, that's the right way. That's what is going to bring you success, happiness. And, God is going to acknowledge you as His dear ones. أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do you ask other people to do good, to be virtuous? وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. And you forget yourself. وَأَنْتُمْ تَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ. Even though you recite the book, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Don't you think? That is, you give lots of sermons. You invite others towards the right path. In your lectures and in your sermons, you are trying to incline people towards goodness and virtue. But when it comes to your own turn, you just ignore. You're not interested. So why is that? Are you telling people to be virtuous, but you are forgetting your own selves, even though you read the book? That is, you know that what is mentioned in the book is meant for you. You should follow it first and then think of others to invite them towards it. You are you are delivering the message of God to others, which is asking people to be virtuous, to be truthful, to be fair. But you're not yourself following the message properly. You're the ones who are guilty of ignoring many of the expectations that the Almighty has mentioned, which you are urging others to follow, but you are forgetting yourself, ignoring yourself, and not taking the message seriously. Afala taqilun. Don't you think and ponder? Don't you feel that it's an obligation on you to follow the truth properly yourself as well? Wasta'inu bis sabri was salah. And seek help from patience, steadfastness, and prayer. That is, the reason why you are not accepting the truth is that you are not steadfast on the path of truth, on the path of virtue. You are dissuaded by the pressures of others, and you are dissuaded by the temptations of this worldly life. What you need to do is to be firm, to be steadfast, to be patient. Sabr is basically to stick to your principles, no matter what, come what may. Whether there are difficulties that are making an attempt to stop you from following the truth, or whether it's temptations that are drawing your attention towards them and attracting you to go the wrong way. In either case, what you need to make sure is that you are firm in your commitment to the truth. So, wasta'inu, seek help from steadfastness and prayer. How can somebody become steadfast? Well, it's only through God's help. And how can God's help be sought? Through saying prayers. So here what the Almighty is saying is that, O children of Israel, you're finding it difficult. You find it difficult to acknowledge the truth because of your weaknesses, because there is a problem in your personalities, in your character. So bring out the goodness in you, which would make you committed on the right path. And for that purpose, say your prayers. So what it means is that prayers, formal prayer, when it is said regularly and properly, one gets the opportunity of improving, of becoming patient, steadfast. Why? Yeah, because in prayers we are talking to God, we are meeting God, we are seeking His help. It gives us a feeling of strength, spiritual, moral strength. And if somebody finds goings in life particularly difficult, then there's no other way out but to be patient. And for getting patience, there is no other way of getting it except through prayers. Because it's only God who can give us patience. And because God you can come close to through prayers. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. Indeed, it's difficult, except for those who fear God and who are inclined towards Him, who have khushu, they are humble. So God is acknowledging the fact that it's not easy to be patient and steadfast by getting inclined towards prayers. But it's not difficult for those who are humble, those who fear God, those who are inclined towards God. Who are these people? Who are the ones who can withstand the pressures of difficulties and temptations by continuously and regularly saying their prayers despite its difficulties? They are the ones الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ, who have a strong feeling that they're going to meet their Lord. وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, and that they are going to return to Him. So in other words, if one is to have khushu, patience, one is to have fear of God and humility, it's only through understanding clearly that there is going to come a day when we are going to meet our God. That thought makes us down to earth. It makes us fearful of the prospects of meeting God, because our performance indeed is not as good as God would expect from us. So that fear, that apprehension, that thought, when it continues to be there in one's mind, one is able to have humility in him. Arrogance is the very opposite of it. If a person is arrogant, he would not even bother to think about the fact that he's going to be accountable one day. So these are the people who are meek, humble, and fearful of the prospects of meeting God and being accountable to Him. They are the ones, الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ. They have a strong feeling that they're going to meet their Lord, وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, and they have a very strong feeling that they are going to return to Him. So these are the verses that are actually inviting the children of Israel, more particularly the clerics, the scholars of Jews, to take God's new, latest, and the last message seriously, because it's the message that you already know is from God, and you were the ones who were asked to let others know about it. So don't do anything that would cause you to be categorized as the very people who, instead of introducing God's message to others, turned out to be the ones who rejected it before anybody else did. Let me translate these verses once again. We started from verse 40. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya Bani Israel, O children of Israel, uzkuru ni'mati. Recall my blessings, allati anamtu alaykum, which I conferred upon you, showered upon you. Wa'ufu bi'ahdi, and fulfill my promise. Ufi bi'ahdikum, I will fulfill your promise. Waiyaya farhabun, and fear me alone. Wa'aminu bima anzaltu musaddiqan lima ma'akum, and believe in what I have revealed, which is confirming what you already have with you. Wala takunu awwala kafirin bih, and don't become the very first rejectors of the truth, rejectors of this message. Wala tashtaru bi ayati thamanan qalila, and don't sell, bargain my verses for a petty price, for an ordinary price. Waiyaya fattaqun, and fear me alone. Wala talbisul haqqa bil batil, and don't mix truth with untruth. Wataktumul haqq, and don't hide the truth. Wantum ta'lamun, even when you know it. Wa aqimus salata wa atuz zakat, and say your prayers regularly and pay zakat. Warka'u ma'ar-raki'in, and do ruku, incline along with those who are getting inclined. That is, do ruku in prayers. When in prayers, obviously, one of the parts of our prayers is ruku. So do ruku, get inclined, along with others who are inclining. Atamuruna an-nasa bil birr. Is it that you ask others, other humans, to do virtue, to be good, but tansawna anfusakum, and you forget yourselves? Wantum tatluna al-kitab, even though you recite the book. Afala taqilun, don't you use your intellect? Wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah, and seek help through steadfastness and patience and formal prayer. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِينَ, and indeed it's a very big challenge, it's a very difficult task, except for those who are humble and meek and who are the ones who are who fear God. Who are these people? Allazina yazunnuna annahum mulaqu rabbihim. They are the ones who have a very strong feeling that they're going to meet their Lord, وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, and the fact that to Him they are going to return. Okay, let me see if there are any questions. Walaikum assalam. I believe in something, my friend believes differently. We both listen to two different scholars who interpret the same surah ayat differently. How do we decide which interpretation is correct? Read and listen to both views with an open mind. Don't leave your point of view unless you start feeling that it's not able to respond to the questions raised by the other view. And keep asking questions about the other view. Don't be adamant. Don't insist that your understanding is correct. Keep comparing the 2 points of view. There are 3 possibilities. One possibility is that you would come to the conclusion that your understanding, the interpretation that you are following is correct, despite the fact that you gave the other point of view a real, genuine chance. And you still feel that your point of view is correct. Alhamdulillah, thank your God. But don't criticize, condemn, ridicule the other view. Just let the other person have the prerogative, the privilege to understand and follow his point of view the way it is. The other possibility could be that you may start realizing that the other view is correct. Your view, even if you liked it, is weak. And I believe you me, if you honestly look at the other point of view, you begin to realize if your view is weak, that the other view is making sense. Just start following it. If it is not easy immediately, do it gradually. But that's what the Almighty demands from us. A third possibility could be that neither you nor your friend has been able to convince the other person. No worries. You follow the path, you follow the understanding you think is correct, and let the other person follow the understanding which he or she deems to be correct. We don't have any prophets coming to us anymore. Therefore, we cannot make a strong claim that our understanding is correct and the other understanding is incorrect. But having said all that, I can assure you that if you start attempting to understand the interpretation of the Quran with an open mind, and you're not unnecessarily biased towards one view or the other, very soon you would start getting answers, interpretations which you would believe are making a lot of sense, and that's how you make progress in understanding religion. So there's nothing that's going to happen overnight. It can gradually happen, and when you talk to other people and they disagree with you, let them disagree. Don't make it a reason for you to feel impatient, to get your relations, don't allow them to get tense. Just discuss politely, academically. Right, so if we do not have any more questions, then I would call it a day, finish it here, and hope that we will meet again next Saturday. You may have a complaint that I don't announce the timings of the class, exact timings when it's going to start. Well, please allow me this facility. It's going to be from any time from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. The situation with me on Saturdays is such that I can't make a firm commitment or a particular time, so please bear with me. Like the Christians believe Jesus is the Son of God, we say He's not. They say they are right, we say they are wrong. Honestly, as a Muslim, you should always tell yourself that the other person is making that claim and he is a Christian, and he has been listening to this view right from the beginning, from his childhood days. And similar is the case with our views. We have been listening to our views right from the beginning. I mean, our Prophet, may Allah's mercy be on him, is the one whom we respect a lot because we believe that he's God's messenger, God's prophet. But Christians were not brought up with that understanding, so they do not even acknowledge him as God's prophet. They have certain other views, like the fact that Jesus is the Son of God, which we believe is absolutely incorrect. Now, have that in mind, that we both have two different views. We both have those views because we were born in two different environments. Therefore, and it's important to know which of the two is correct. Therefore, let's keep looking at the arguments of the other, and let's keep trying that the other person is looking at your arguments as well. Let's pray to God earnestly to let you become more clear, and let the other person, your friend who is not a Muslim, to be clear as well on what the truth is. But one thing is certain, we just simply cannot accept the fact that both views are simultaneously correct. They are contradicting each other. I can tell you, well, some obviously Christians would dispute what I'm saying, but right now I'm talking to my fellow Muslims. I can tell you that if you make it a point that you will accept nothing but what appeals to you as true, God makes arrangements to let you know what the truth is and let you feel comfortable with it. You should have a questioning mind. You should be critical even of your own views. Don't lose your politeness, but be critical. Don't accept what is weak. Don't accept what is unacceptable. And don't expect any shortcuts. Things are going to happen when you will follow a certain procedure, and you will face difficulties of confusions as well. You will become at times confused. But if you don't lose heart and continue to probe and to search, inshallah, sooner or later, you will know what the truth is. Know intellectually, academically. Right now, unfortunately, most people on both sides of the divide, Muslims and Christians, they are believing in what they believe in emotionally because they have been attached to a certain tradition. They don't want to leave it. They don't want to think by coming out of that tradition to look at it critically. What I'm saying out of my own experience somewhat is that when you go into the luxury of looking at your view, at your message, your religion critically, you go through periods of anxiety, tension, at times depression, but then you come out of it and you start getting confident that the message that you have is indeed the message of God, and what it says is indeed the truth. I will have more time, inshallah, in these lessons for us to be able to talk about this and related matters in more details. May Allah the Almighty enable us to know and follow the truth properly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.